This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, hey everybody, it's Brian Keith Noonan, and this is the Q4 Yatsov Challenge implementation at the speed of focus on 12/20/18. And we're going to be covering, if all goes well, chapters 14 and 15 of The One Thing. And chapters 13 through 15 is really, in my opinion, where the rubber meets the road in terms of implementing this stuff. So it has to do with time blocking and, actually setting up your calendar and setting up your work time and actually setting up your vacation time first, which is interesting, and highly recommended exercise because it's counterintuitive, but like many things that are, it's very effective. So anyways, I was not here last week. I was getting my face smashed into a dashboard and biting my tongue in half, which is healing up well, I'm happy to say. But any wins, challenges, comments, questions on The One Thing from the past couple weeks?
Well, I will say that I am finding that it's imperative for me to actually focus on what is the one thing at this given moment. Otherwise, I don't manage to get anything done. And it's getting more and more clear to me that it is really important because I can spend way too much time putting out fires and living my life on someone else's schedule if I don't actually get clear on what it is that I'm doing. And it's
Amen.
Incredibly valuable.
Amen. Yeah, that's a huge point. And we can if we don't have our own agenda, we're going to be on someone else's agenda. That's the bottom line. And even if we have jobs, commitments, partnerships, et cetera, if we don't have our own ruthless calendar that we're defending our own time, then we are basically, to use the French, we're fucked. So, yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. How about you, Tim?
I just had to figure out where the unmute button is. No, actually, I was going to use, instead of using your French word, I was just going to say we're slaves, because at that point in time, if you're always constantly dancing to somebody else's tune, you're not living your life. You're living your life for somebody else.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, we're parents, and the children are not little us. That's a huge factor. People accuse me of, living my, life through my son. I'm like, nope, he's living his own life. I'm just warning him about the mistakes I made and saying, make different ones. So that's a huge takeaway right there as far as the productivity is concerned, because, he's in finals week right now defending his grade point average. So I've got to, go to bed at midnight, not when I want to. So but once again, it's a priority to keep his grades up because college is breathtakingly expensive.
Yeah, no doubt. And, part of one of my new initiatives, which is called the Me First movement, has to do with putting our own oxygen mask on first. Right? Taking care of ourselves first. And it's contradictory to, in many ways, the way we've been brought up, and that's selfish. And if you're taking care of yourself first, you're doing something wrong. But realistically, if we take care of ourselves and center ourselves and align ourselves and have purpose ourselves and have fulfillment ourselves, then we can help other people that much more and that much more effectively, including our kids, our spouse, our significant other, whatever the case is. So really, our feeling good is paramount to everything else. Our fulfillment is paramount to everything else. Our effectiveness is paramount to everything else. So when we, it's very tempting, especially like we love our kids to death, we love our spouse to death, we love whatever, but it's tempting to put other people first. But really, if we do that, we're putting ourselves at a disadvantage, and then we're shortchanging them as well, because we're not going to be as good for them. And that's a big thing. So good stuff, guys. All right, so let's dig into the material here of the one thing. And chapters 13 through 15 is really where in my opinion, where the rubber meets the road in this whole thing. Once you get the concepts, it's where there's implementation of the goal setting to now, the time blocking, and so forth. So we focused a couple weeks ago on chapter 13, living with purpose, and now we're going to living with priority, and chapter 14. So stand by. I'm going to share. Sharing is caring. Let's see, where are we? By the way, I decided to grow my hair out a little bit, like a little bit less military, a little more, I don't know what.
Cool.
All right.
Long-haired hippie.
Gonna be a hippie. All right, so can you guys see my screen and see chapter 14 here?
Roger that.
Okay, great. So as before, the little quotes that the author puts in, the things he underlines, and the diagrams he puts in, and the big ideas at the end of each chapter are especially significant. So planning is bringing the future into the present so that you can do something about it now. So we're talking about goal setting to the now here. And what that's about is our someday goals, okay? And with permission, Tiffany, I'll reference your eliminating corporal punishment for children in the United States, for instance. Sort of a sometime ago, like 10, 15 years out in the future, or further out, and this can apply to all of us. If we don't bring those goals into the present, then they don't get any traction. Okay, they're too far out. They're not tangible. They seem too big, or they seem too far out, or whatever. And the fires we're fighting, like you referenced earlier, will take priority. Okay, so our long-term important goals need to be brought into the present, and that's the concept behind this. Right? Purpose without priority is powerless. Okay, so they talk about the marshmallow experiment, right? The kids that they have one marshmallow, and if they keep that and don't eat it for 15 minutes, to get another marshmallow. But most of them ate the marshmallow, right? Like what's, a bird in hand is worth two in the bush type of thing. But it's not. Okay, they could have double. Like most of us are not in tune with that delayed gratification, because what's in front of us and what's happening right now takes priority. And this suggests that you can take those things that are further out and important but not urgent, right? They're not the ringing phone, they're not the bleeping message, they're not the problem of the moment type of thing, but they're the most important things and the most effective things that you can do, and the most things that you can do that will have the most impact in your life, right? To take that and bring it into the present. So if ending corporal punishment, is it okay if I use you as this example, Tiffany?
It's fine.
All right, so thank you. So if we're ending corporal punishment, right, which we've talked about before, like even in a private school in Georgia, you have to sign a disclaimer that your kid's not going to get paddled, right, for doing something wrong, like paddled by the principal with a wooden paddle. It's crazy, right? but seems crazy, but exists, and is probably more the norm than the exception. So if we want to eradicate that, what do we have to do? Okay, well, so if our goal is to eradicate that in the next 10, 15 years, in terms of a someday goal, we'll look at the charts of this and the diagrams in a second. But what do we have to do now? So 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, 1 month, 1 week, 1 day, 1 hour, right now. What are we going to do? How are we going to put it in our calendar? And our calendar has to be what I call a ruthless calendar. We have to defend our time blocks. We have to keep the appointments with ourselves for our primary work and our rest and recreation and our quality time with our family and all those things. We have to defend those times. But if it's not on the fucking calendar, you can't defend it. You can't say no. So when this random thing comes in, like random client, random family member, random whatever, rolls in, like somebody else's agenda, rolls into your life, what can you say? If it's not scheduled, how can you say no? I'm not saying don't help them. I'm not saying ignore them. I'm not saying be a dick to them. I'm saying have control over your time, because we are in this time space, linear time space continuum of humanity. Okay, we're here, right? There's ideas about bending it and twisting it and whatever, but bottom line is we're in this, right? So might as well embrace it and say, okay, well, I can't meet with you now, or I can't meet with you then, or I can't help you when you're asking. However, I have an opening XYZ time. Or just fucking say no. You don't have to explain. You don't have to be politically correct or whatever. We're not here to be liked, okay? I think a common misconception is that we're here to be liked by as many people as possible, and we got the social media and we're going to be, get all these likes and comments and be popular and shit like that. Fuck that, okay? We are here to serve our tribe, our audience, okay? And these are going to be committed people. And the ones that aren't committed can fuck off, okay? I'm not saying be a dick to them. I'm just saying you're going to challenge them when you're talking to them and having a conversation in terms of an enrollment conversation for coaching or whatever your product or service is, that are you ready to change something or not? How much longer are you going to live with XYZ condition that you just explained to me? And if they are, they are. If they're not, they're not. It's a matter of polarization. I would rather personally have I would have a few people that love me and a few people that hate me, rather than try to be the guy that everybody likes. And I would suggest or invite you to consider this possibility, because the people that love you will do all kinds of things with you. They'll invest all kinds of money with you. They'll work with you. They'll do projects with you. They'll partner with you. They'll do amazing things with you. And the ones who don't and won't. But the lukewarm people, I want to be popular and everybody likes me, guess what? Not happening. They're not taking out their credit card. They're not committing. And because you are not taking a position. Make sense? And I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent right now, but this is serious stuff for the people that are in this group.
I think it makes sense. I want everyone to like me. No, that's not what I don't really feel that way. I don't feel that way at all. I think you can nicely and kindly defend your calendar and choose the people that are around you. But then if their opinion of that is really none of your business, I'm going into remembering that.
Yeah.
Their opinion of that is none of their is none of your business, as long as you're feeling good about what you're doing and what you're accomplishing, and you know that you were kind, but you're putting your values first and creating boundaries. It's
Absolutely.
not an issue whether or not they don't like you.
Absolutely. We are not in charge of other people's feelings, and we can deal with things as tactfully and kindly as we can, because we're all caring people and we're all in the service business. We're here to help people in various different capacities, right? So we're going to do that, but at the same time, we can only help people to the degree that they're willing to help themselves. And so if they're not willing to commit to something or work with us, or they don't like our message or whatever, that's not our problem. That's their problem. That's their issue. Okay. We have to be in touch. And that's why we take more time planning out our purpose and our priority and our productivity here, like we're doing right now, than people do for their vacation. Like people spend more fucking time planning out their 2-week vacation a year than they do planning out their life. It's a big problem. Okay. They're not looking at what's really important, and they're looking at the escape. And I love recreation, rest, and vacation, all those things. And we're going to talk about scheduling that stuff in first on your calendar. But bottom line is, if you don't take some time, ideally weekly, and plan out what you're trying to do and what your most important things are in the various pillars or most important aspects of your life, your health, your key relationships, your business, your spirituality, and so forth. If you're not doing that, then you're subject to the whims of the social media or the news media, or the whims of life, just things flowing through, people randomly coming into things and requesting things and things like that. So if it's not planned out on your calendar and not ruthlessly defended on your calendar, then you are on someone else's program, not yours.
Yeah, I also think, from an energetic woo-woo level, where I tend to live, is if you're have an intention or a goal to grow your business, right, and to create a certain amount of income, but you're living a life that is overwhelmed and stress and you're exhausted, it's easy to see that you're not actually opening up the space for a new client, because what part of you is thinking, I don't have time for a new client or to bring something else in, when you're actually creating that space to have growing, when you're actually creating that space to have downtime and to take care of yourself and to feel really good with the life you're creating, then there's space to allow something else in. So it's not just that you're saying, I'm going to grow my business, but you're creating a life that allows the space for that business to grow and still feel good to you.
Exactly. Now,
I've come by that the hard way, right? Through burnout, stress, and overwhelm, but I've got.
Don't we all? Right? Yeah. There's no shame in that. Like, we've all kind of come upon these lessons the hard way. Like, why would we seek these things out other than relief from pain of mistakes? And none of us are perfect. So, good stuff. Well, I got a question for you. So, with your permission, can we talk about what we talked about yesterday?
I don't think Tim cares about Christmas dinner. No, I'm kidding. What did we talk about yesterday? Sure. I can't think of anything we talked about that I would say no to, so sure.
No, well, the board of directors guy and the LLC and the grants and all that stuff. Can we talk about that? Because
sure.
I think that's a prime example, actually. And I know you're handling it. So that's not really the question. But Tim, this is an interesting example. So Tiffany is on the board of directors of something called the Global Presence, and they're doing great stuff with not only parenting, but a lot of very philanthropic things around the globe. So one of her fellow board of directors said, my subscription to this thing for grants and so on and so forth, it's expiring. If anybody wants to, like put in for something, just let me know. So Tiffany, in her helpful and kind way, reached out to me and some other people and said, hey, if there's something you've got going on that could warrant a grant, maybe you want to put it in. And I said back to her, like, what about what the fuck you're doing? Okay. What about eradicating corporal punishment for children? What about the parenting things? Because honestly, I think what Tiffany does is like, exponentially more important than what I do for the most part, in many ways, because of the impact it could have in the world and things like that. And so I said, like, why aren't you putting your thing in? And she said, well, I might have to, have this LLC to apply for the grant, whatever. I'm like, you can have that for $110 online, blah, 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 blah. So what I did was as a pain in the ass, but a friend and an advocate, threw it back into her court, said like, hey, what the fuck about your stuff, right? What, you got the $110, make an LLC, send them the keywords, instead of doing whatever else you're doing, pause for a second, put your thing first because it's that important, and you get a grant. And so the reason I bring all this up is that often, okay, as caring and helping people, we are extending that thing to everybody. And, when opportunities come up or we want to share things or what have you, but we've got to be focused on our thing, okay, especially if it's an important thing like what Tiffany's doing. And Tim, you also, you're, helping the youth as well. Okay. I mean, I believe the children are our future, right? They are. Okay. And if we can make a difference with them, we can make a difference with history and the way things go in the world. So yes, absolutely. That's why I invest time in that myself. So bottom line, and as I'm talking about this, maybe our youth entrepreneur program, maybe that should have a grant. I don't know. We'll circle back on that offline. But bottom line is, I want to remind Tiffany that despite everything else she's doing, helping other people and working with other people and partnering with other people and things like that, like, hey, your thing is really, really, really important, and don't discount it. And that should be in your calendar. So whether it's eradicating corporal punishment or however you want to phrase it or set it up as a goal of a someday goal, that needs to be, even if it's 15 minutes a day, in your calendar to work on your shit, okay, your thing, and no one else's thing. So wherever, if it's not in the calendar, guys, does it happen? I mean, I don't know how much you live by your calendar. I live by mine. And if it's not in there, it's really probably not happening. And if there's like loose space in there, it's probably not happening. I'm not saying I perfectly adhere to my calendar at all times, but that's the idea. Okay. So if it's not in there, I can't defend it. I can't block it out. I can't necessarily focus on it. Tim, you're being quiet today. You got anything to say?
Oh, yeah. I was actually waiting for my chance to get up on the soapbox.
Go for it.
Well, all right. Part of it is we're going to go back. I'm circling back to the why do we put everybody else's needs before ours? And it's cultural conditioning.
Yeah.
So the people in charge who want to get stuff done have conditioned us all to do what they want to do. So we're fighting an uphill battle culturally right there because we're conditioned.
Yes.
The American school system was based on the Prussian school system, which is all about obedience and compliance, not about critical thinking and productivity. It's about control.
Yeah.
So as long as we understand power and control is the reason that the school system is the way it is and why our conditions are the way they are. Politics, religion, education, all combined to control us. We're the
military-industrial complex.
Actually, a little bit bigger than that, but you told me not. You told me not to go down a rabbit hole, so I'm not.
Okay, thank you.
So what I'm saying is we're all fighting our conditioning, and your example from yesterday is a prime of it, where you're having to point out to Tiffany what her conditioning is. She's conditioned to put everybody else before herself.
Right.
And that's normal. This is why this book is so important to us. That's why this course is so important to us, is because we're here sitting there going, put your own mask on first. What's your priority? Why are you doing this? And so by putting it on the calendar, we are making it cognizant, because if we're not thinking about it, we're never going to bother doing it. Because Tiffany was thinking, oh, I want to help other people. And she didn't put herself on that list. You are advocating, put your own shit on the list so the stuff can get done. And you're both right. So yes, you have to put it in a space where it can go. Now, Tiffany, I'm going to throw out something that's like an evil parenting thing. If you want the kids to clean their room, you can tell them, how could you get presents for Christmas if your room's not clean and there's space available to put the new stuff? Just throwing that out there. I have no idea about how dirty anybody's room is, but I've had children for a while, and now I have cats too, so I gave up. But that's opening the space and having the time is there. Having the plan is the truth of it. And I'm going to throw one rabbit hole thing at you, Brian. Sorry for this. Our language is part of the problem as far as being able to bring things into now. English as a language separates the future tense from the past tense from the present tense. So that's why Chinese people are better at saving money than English-speaking people are, because they don't have that separation. So our brain is different because of the language we're thinking in. So that's the point I'm attempting to make on why we need the calendar to bring the stuff into now, because we have now and then we have not now. And that's the problem. So by having the list, having the calendar, having a review, I mean, that's part of see, since Tiff is doing the home educating thing, she has to represent and use spaced repetition in order for the children to actually retain the information. Because I guarantee you, at a public school, you spend the first 3 months of the year teaching them everything they were supposed to have learned the year before. So if you do spaced repetition, you can actually own the information. And the algorithms are all laid out on a timetable. It's pretty straightforward. Review once a day, 24 hours later, 7 days later, 30 days later, and then you've got the information. So that's where I'm going with this. So I can get off my soapbox now.
Yeah. So, and in that case, it doesn't even have to be that regimented necessarily, but the whole idea of homeschooling is to learn from life versus force learning into life. And they're getting the basics and so forth, but at the same time, they're also getting to follow their interests and stuff like that. So good stuff. And let's look at how we can block these things into our calendar. And I personally believe that we don't need to block in more than 4 hours of concentrated work a day. The common, expectation is to work 8+ hours a day. I don't think that's necessary if you can make it concentrated. So we're going to talk about that and some other things as well. Just my Kindle go here. Hold on. Let's share the right thing here. I'm going to get through these 2 chapters because, like I said, chapters 13 through 15 is where the rubber really meets the road in terms of implementing this stuff. Why isn't this showing up? Bear with me 1 sec. All right, I'm going to just share the whole screen and then this should come up. Okay. All right. So, what he's talking about is back onto that marshmallow test. It's called hyperbolic discounting, which means that the further away the reward is in the future, the smaller the immediate motivation is to achieve it. So that's why stuff that's urgent but maybe not important gets in our way, or urgent and important in terms of fighting fires and things like that. So goal setting to now brings the future goal into the present. And this is a good diagram here in terms of someday, 5-year, 1-year, monthly, weekly, daily, and right now. So guys and gals, this applies to each significant area of your life. So you're going to have this goal setting to now for your business. You're going to have it for your finance. You're going to have it for your key relationships. You're going to have it for your spirituality. You're going to have it for your fitness and health, et cetera, et cetera. So however you divide up your life in terms of the most important pillars of what's holding you up and making your life happen, there's a one thing, and there's a one thing for each of those things, and there's a goal setting to the now for each of those things. So that's an important differentiation, because a lot of people read the one thing and think like there's only one thing. No, there's not only one thing. There's one thing for each significant aspect of your life, and depending on how that's time blocked out on your calendar, you look at your calendar, you see what time block you're in, and it could be time with the kids, time with the spouse, time for my fitness, time to rest, time for business, whatever the case is. And then you take that and then look at the one thing for there. And you take your to-do list, which could be 100 things, and you break it down by the 80-20 rule, 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%, so you have one thing to work on. Make sense? It's an exercise that is worthwhile. And it helps create perspective. I'm going to X out of this now. All right, there we go. So the whole idea of goal setting to now is in each area, okay, in your business, in your relationships, in your spirituality, in your health, there should be something like this. It's worth doing the exercise of creating a someday goal, real big one, and then where do you need to be in 5 years, 1 year, monthly, weekly, and right now. And it brings it into the present. Connect today to all your tomorrows. That's the idea. Okay, you guys got this, I think. And back to the domino metaphor. If you're setting these things up right and hitting the most highly leveraged things, you know, my systems are designed, and what you'll have by the end of our course here is a system with some apps and some things that sort of automate this and make to-do lists into success lists and help time block and prioritize and things like that. But it's designed to put you in to at least the 20% of things that produce the 80% of your results. Okay, you can fine tune it beyond that, but bottom line is, if you're doing that, you're way ahead of the crowd. Okay, big ideas. There can be only one. Okay, so most important priority is one thing to do right now that will help achieve what matters most to you, but in that aspect of your life. So if you're in your 4-hour work block, say if that's how you set it up, your 4-hour one thing work block, then that's all you're dealing with, ideally. Okay. But you might be in your half-hour exercise block, or you might be in your 8-hour sleep block, or you might be in your 1-hour connect with the kids block. So all those things each have their own one thing. Okay. If you don't have them written down, then you're going to put yourself behind, etc. Thoughts, comments, challenges. Have you done this?
No, and a piece of it that I just learned about is this thing called intention. So when you actually tell yourself, I intend to work on this at this time, you're a hell of a lot more likely to do it than the people who are just like, hey, this would be a great idea. I should really do that. Yeah. So I'm changing that for my son for his studying for the SAT and ACT. I've left it up to him, and it ain't working out. So guess what? We're now going to go to I need you to work on this for 15 minutes a day. I only paid $1,000 for this tutoring program. Okay. Okay, I did get a discount. I won't tell you how much, but a lot. And, I'd like him to actually, maybe increase his SAT and ACT scores, so maybe we can get some scholarships.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being a good kid. So the intention has to be where the child states out loud, I will spend 15 minutes on my computer studying this tutoring material, and then have him assign a time block to it.
Yeah.
I'll do it from
3:45. It's got to be on the calendar. And that's the thing. See, I used to think that filling up my calendar would cramp my style and be too stiff and be too regimented and things like that. But realistically, especially if you do it the way it's suggested in the book, which is to put your rest and recreation time on first, your vacation time on first. And I challenge you all to go into 2019 and take every holiday weekend and or possible vacation time and block it out. Put in your rest time, put in your meditation time, put in your workout time, put in your quality time with your family. Put that shit in first. It's not shit. Okay. Put those things in first. It's challenging. It's counterintuitive because we all think I got to work. Then fill your work in around those other things. Okay. What I just said, I could say 10 times over. Okay. It's that important. Go, and even if you don't end up taking every long weekend or whatever the case is, okay, every vacation that you block out, just put some stuff that you want to do on there and approximately the time you want to do it. Okay. And if you have it on the calendar and then you put your work blocks in, which really should be about 4 hours a day of concentrated work. It doesn't have to be 4 hours in a row. It could be 2 and 2. It could be however you like to break it up or whatever the case is. But defend that shit. Defend your time. Manage the expectations of your family, friends, clients, and so forth. Okay? Let them know that is my work time. I cannot do what you're asking me to do now or then. And if you choose to do it, if you don't say no, okay, powerful. No, just say no. Just say no.
I feel like I'm being lectured to.
You are. Well, it's not you personally.
No, it's not just you. It's me too.
I know, but we can't see you. Therefore, I feel like he's daring.
I saw Tim yesterday. He's around. So
Tim, the truth of the matter is you don't know that Brian sees my schedule. So he knows it's a very rhetorical question when he says, have you done this yet? Because he can
okay. Well,
let me know.
What could be worse, Tiffany, he could also be sharing his to-doist list, and then he'd know if you checked it off or not. So it'd be even worse than that. Now, then you can take it another level beyond that, and you can use a Google Reminder function. So it would be an automatic rhetorical, yo, you said you were going to do this, and you didn't do that yet, dog. What up, G? You know, it could get worse.
Okay, look, this is not personal to Tiffany, to Tim, or to anyone except all of us, really, because I talk about what I have found and what my challenges have been and what I assume that you might be also experiencing, okay? And what I've found to turbocharge it, to make it more efficient, to make it more effective and productive, okay? We talk about productivity. It's not like a sexy thing. It doesn't sound sexy, like writing goals down. It's like, I've heard all this shit over and over again. But if we do it this way, like goal setting to the now and time blocking and defending our calendar and our appointments with ourselves and stuff like that, we can really make great strides. And things that we have not been making progress on, we can make progress on. And things, income that we have not been getting, we can get. And clients that we have not been getting, we can get. And impact that we have not been making, we can make, okay? So if that's appealing to you, then dig into this stuff because it's really, really where the rubber meets the road. So,
yes, and for the people watching the recording, I'm just, I'm just making a joke. But I resisted calendars for a long time after leaving medical practice because I felt like I lived by this strict schedule every 10 minutes for 15 years. And I was obsessed with running as close to on time. And when people came in and my life was all scheduled out, that I resisted it. And what I have come to learn is that to be effective and efficient in anything, sticking to a schedule, and I'm even getting more, it's becoming more evident to me that actually creating the time blocks for certain aspects is important. Yeah. Because the way my mind works, I was explaining to you the other day, Brian, I joke that like the two parts of my brain don't talk really well. So I have a good, productive, get shit done, build infrastructure, masculine side of the brain that goes, but it doesn't talk to my creative side. And my life involves both. I can't sit down and write a blog post while I'm building the infrastructure for a program because I'm not in that mode. And if I create out the time and meditation time before it to be ready to block out a chunk of time where I allow myself to be more creative and in flow, it is important for me. And it's important for that creative time that I have set boundaries with the people that are around me to leave me alone, or it doesn't happen either. So it is critically important, and it is something that I'm getting better at every day.
And all this stuff, it's not going to be one and done, right? You're not going to sit down and just like fix your calendar in a way that's going to be permanent and perfect for the rest of your life. It's not like that. All this stuff that we do with the one thing requires maintenance. It requires review. It requires weekly planning. It requires quarterly revisiting of the goal setting to the now. How's it going? Is this still the goal? Is it changing course? Whatever the case is, and time blocking and so forth. But you have to do this basic stuff. It's like the layups and foul shots in basketball before we're going to do the reverse slam dunk. We need to have this groundwork and put the time into this non-sexy type stuff to have our freedom, which is very sexy. Freedom is sexy. Income is sexy. Effectiveness, impact, productivity, it actually is sexy because it ends up in your bank account and in your life and your fulfillment and your happiness and all those things. So the non-sexy things, to create a structure for yourself so that you have, and you have put in your rest, recreation, quality time with family, all these things that are really the most important. First, put them in first so you know you're not dropping the ball, okay? And then you can, when you're working, work. Be 100% on. And when you're not, be 100% off. Be present with your loved ones. Be present with yourself. Be present with your workout. Be present with your sleep. Be present with your kids, you know. So the idea is actually to work less but more focused and concentrated, and to make sure that all those other important things are in your calendar. So your calendar should look full, but it's full of everything you need, not just your work, not just your commitments and responsibilities, but also your rest. I have on my calendar on Saturdays and Sundays mornings permission to fuck off, block. Okay? I have that. And that's what I do. I don't feel like I need to meditate, read, work, anything. Just hang out. What do I want to do? Maybe watch a movie, maybe sleep in, whatever. Permission to fuck off is on my calendar. I would invite you to explore the possibilities of stuff like this, because if you schedule the things that renew you and fulfill you and matter to you most, which many things may be more so than work, and then schedule your work around it, you're going to have a whole different picture of life. You feel me? All right, we're coming up on the end here, and I'm going to go through chapter 15 real quick. The last 7 minutes. But this is about you guys. It's not about me. It's not what I want for you. It's not what society wants for you. It's not what your family wants for you. It's not any of that. It's about you. And then when you're at your best, you could be at your best for them. And you could be at your best for the people that you would serve. And you could be at the best for your community. And you could be at the best for your family, so on and so forth. What's that first? My Sherry thing. All right, there we go. So, chapter 15, live with productivity. Live for productivity, okay? Productive action transforms lives. And, you know, we've all been, you know, we've all procrastinated. We've all put stuff off. We've all done things ineffectively. I get it. Me, you, everybody. So, preaching to the choir in a way, but we want to fine-tune this. And what it has to do with, I think, is primarily standing up for ourselves and for our time and for our time that we've blocked out for various different things. All right? Putting together a life of extraordinary results simply comes down to getting the most out of what you do when what you do matters. So if you're with your family, you're with your family. If you're working, you're working. If you're working out, you're working out. That's it. It's like not multitasking, not thinking about something else, not doing anything, because you put everything into your calendar in a way that you know all the bases are covered. I like this thing that this little conversation he has, and I've been thinking a lot about this. You know, talks about time management systems, right? And I'll read this to you. Well, if everyone has the same amount of time and yet some earn more than others, I ask, can we then say it's how you use your time that determines the money that we make? Everyone always agrees, so I continue. If this is true, that time is money, then the best way to describe the time management system might just be by the money it makes. So do you think you're using the $10,000 a year system, the $20,000 a year system, the $50,000, $100,000, $500,000 a year system? Are you using the $1 million plus system, right? So this is all what we're talking about in terms of how things are blocked out, because our time management system, whether you use an app or a Covey whatever the fuck calendar, bottom line is, how much do you make? I guess it's not all about the money, but it's a significant factor, right? And the more that you can fine tune things, the more that the money will follow. It's sort of a byproduct of actually doing what we're talking about. And time block your one thing, protect your time block. Like, fucking paste this on your forehead or your mirror, okay? Because if you don't stick up for it, no one else is going to, believe me. And if you're not in your own program, you're on somebody else's program, all right? What we're suggesting here, sorry for my phone noises, if disproportionate results come from one activity, then you must give that activity disproportionate time. And that is probably going to be your profession, okay? And that's what we're suggesting that you create a 4-hour time block for, whether it's in pieces or whatever. Make sure that you have a focused 4 hours on your business and profession as an entrepreneur, if that's what you are, or employee, okay? Typical day, not effective, okay? Productive day, half of it's on your one thing, and then everything else. Guys, there's the job, which is your reward, actually. Hopefully, if you position yourself in a business or employment that you enjoy, then doing your job is actually the reward. If you're coaching, if you're serving, if you're whatever you're doing, okay? That's the reward part. Then there's the business, okay? The business is where you make the money, okay? You don't get paid for the job. You get paid for the business. The job is a reward. The business is what you get paid for. The rest is the busyness, okay? That's all the bullshit that you probably shouldn't be doing and should be delegating, okay? If you look in the group, we've got some different guidance on that in terms of, the per hour costs, and, you might want to consider having a virtual assistant or a team or what have you, okay? These are important concepts. But this is what I was talking about before, okay? We talk about the calendar, time block your time off, time block your one thing, and time block your planning time, okay? So you're blocking your time off first. And I would suggest, quality family time and things like that. Put it in first, okay? You know that the most important thing in your life and most important things are being taken care of. They're on the calendar. And it's much easier to say, honey, I can't do this right now, but I can do it in 2 hours, or I could do it tomorrow, okay? If you don't have it structured, you can't do that. And you're going to be subject to the whims and the ebb and flow and tides of everyone else's random agenda. That was one of the hardest exercises I did in this book, is go out and put in vacation and time off and time for me and time for my family first ahead of work. But it is worthy. Do it. Try it. Let me know next week how it goes. Okay? Time blocking. Just go on to 2019. We're coming up on a new year here. Okay? And we talked about our habit tracker. I have my the one I recommended to you guys. You can put an X in, not as a to-do list, but as a habit tracker, putting in things that you do every day and get momentum, okay? Whether it's making your bed or doing some push-ups or brushing your teeth or whatever the case is, of, making a post, sending an email, whatever it is, if you put it on your habit tracker and start getting some momentum, then you're going to be more inclined to continue with it. And once you go through that average of 66 days, it's the amount of effort, okay, amount of discipline. We've talked about discipline here in this book. The discipline curve goes down It becomes second nature, like muscle memory. Okay. I make my bed. I make my post. I send my email, whatever the case is. That's going to be something you want to create a powerful habit with. All right. I think we're pretty much done. I know we're at time now of 1 hour. I do like the big ideas at the end of this chapter, which have to do with building a bunker. Okay. As you've seen, my office is pretty Spartan, and that's on purpose because my office is my bunker, is where I go to work and concentrate. Okay. Especially if you work at home, there's all kinds of distractions. Walk by the sink, you're gonna think I need to do the dishes. Walk by the hamper, you're gonna think I need to do laundry, right? All this stuff. No. Okay. Either set things up, set the environment up like we were talking about before. Set the environment up to benefit what you're focusing on. And if you have your calendar set up, you can say, all right, well, that's my break time or errand time or household, maintenance time later. It's on there. I'll get to it. So I don't have to interrupt myself, because especially if we're doing work that is challenging or outside of our comfort zone, we will be looking for those distractions, right? We'll be like, I really need to freaking do the laundry right now. No, you don't. Okay. You don't. And this multitasking creates greater, you're creating longer work times and less effective work times. Okay. So ideally in your bunker, have your coffee, have a snack, have whatever, just so you can stay in there for the 4 hours or the 2 hours and 2 hours or the 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour, whatever it works out for you, that you can stay there and stay off of social media, stay off of email, stay off of messaging, unless it's specifically structured into what you're trying to do. Okay. And what you're doing right now in terms of being in a group and being accountable is very, very powerful. So kudos to you on that. Any last thoughts, comments, questions, or anything before we finish up? And that was chapter 14 and 15 of the one thing.
Yes, I do. I do have something to say. And I'm going to call BS on the author, because he tells a story about how Stephen King sets up his day. It's like, and he said, well, what is it? Because he's Stephen King, he could do this? Or is it because he set this things up so he could become Stephen King? And I've studied Stephen King's life in detail because of my wife's obsession with Stephen King books. So I actually know who the guy is. And he wrote some of his best work while he was teaching girls phys ed in Maine. So don't give me this, I've set my schedule up, therefore I am this fantastic author. No, he was writing when he could in order to get into this place where he is now. So this is the whole, well, I don't have Jeff Bezos's schedule, but guess what? Jeff Bezos didn't have his schedule until, 15 years, 20 years into Amazon. Right. So everybody looks at today's like, oh, this is how Brian Noonan runs his day. And that wasn't always the case. So that's kind of where I call it BS on people. Now, we're going to get there because of what we're doing by writing things down. But I just wanted to point out that it really pissed me off when I read this guy pontificating on Stephen King. And I'm like, dude, he was a broke gym teacher.
Great point. So our life conditions can determine how we go about something. Okay. If you're bootstrapping, starting a business, fitting it in alongside other employment or contract work or whatever the case is, you've got to fit it in, and you fit it in where you can. Okay. So it might not be a super clean, 4 hours of time, or it might not be a super uninterrupted time block or whatever the case is, but that's how we have to adapt. However, the principles remain the same in terms of sticking up for what you set up for yourself, keeping the appointments with yourself. Okay. If you're working with or for somebody else, that's great. That's got to go on the calendar. But your stuff, if your stuff's not on the calendar, it ain't going to happen. It's going to keep getting pushed off. And then you will never, if you have designs of having your own thing or your own empire or your own business or your own impact on the world, it ain't going to fucking happen. So make sure that even if it's 15 minutes a day that you put on your calendar for you, like my business or my impact or my project, get in there. And Tim, we were talking about atomic habits the other day, like in terms of even if you just like, what I'm talking about is 15 minutes. If you start for 15 minutes, then the tendency is going to be to work on it longer. Okay. But just getting that start, just being disciplined enough to get the start on something. Start on your health, start on your business, start on your project with the kids, whatever. Just getting the start on something, like saying, okay, now is the time that we're going to do this. And then 15 minutes might turn into 30 to 45 to an hour or whatever the case is, and you'll get something done. But at least you'll be conscious of it and honor that time slot, that time block that you've created, and stick up for yourself in terms of that, or stick up for your loved ones and your interaction with them, or stick up for the people that you serve and your interaction with them. But just make sure it's on there. So put it on there. Even if your calendar starts looking a little bit complicated, it really should include all the vacation, recreation, working out, sleeping, et cetera, the things that you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, and then you can serve others and take care of your loved ones all the better. Cool? I'm going to wrap this up now unless anybody's got anything else. Good, Tiff?
I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Tiff. I will see you next week. Keep the discussion going in the group.
Amen. Welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.